Hello, and welcome to Youngordumb.
Hello.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Brandon, and my job title is I am a stainless and aluminum product specialist for a metals company.
Welcome to Youngordumb. My name's Marianna, and I'm interested in learning a variety of topics. But the thing is, I'm not much of a reader. Join me as I interview a mix of people in different careers or topics to see if I'm just new to adulting and haven't learned this stuff yet, or if I should have known this information already.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go ahead and start off with your job responsibilities?
Okay. So a product specialist, what I'm doing a lot of is a lot of different jobs that you see in different people's like daily, jobs, but I have a whole lot of different ones. So I do a little bit of purchasing. It's a lot of relationship based, a lot of knowing the customers. One thing that I've always liked doing was being more informed. So in my industry, there's a lot to learn. And even if you're in it for 20, 25 plus years, you're always learning something different. So being in it for, almost 3 years now, and I'm still learning something every single day.
Crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
Time flies. Time flies.
Be more specific. You do a lot of everything.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Well, when I started college, I wanted to be in business.
Like
I think
100 years ago.
Yeah, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Great, thanks for that. But I wanted to be in business. I knew I kind of liked analyzing. That's kind of how my mind works. So I was originally in finance. I switched to economics, and I absolutely loved it because you get to follow markets.
I thought you did a double major.
I did. So I switched my finance major to management with an emphasis in leadership.
Okay.
So that's what I did, but my true, passion was economics. And there you get to study different charts, how things, how one thing can affect another thing, and kind of how things are expected to react, which is very important in what I do because I just so happen to stumble into the metals industry, and it's an actual commodity that's being traded. So every single day you could go on and see where is a certain type of metal trading today, and it very deeply affects what I do on my day-to-day.
What do you mean it's being traded? Like, is that a fancy word for sold?
It's traded on a marketplace. So
Like stocks?
very much like stocks, or different commodities are traded like stocks too. So you can go on and buy flour, corn, different commodities are traded like that. And that's what a lot happens is the farmers will bring a certain amount of their crops to the market, and you have traders that are trading their crop, their goods.
Yeah.
And that happens with all sorts of commodities, including metals. So being in stainless steel is a lot of nickel. Yeah, no, not like
Not money.
Not 5 cents. No, no, 2 won't get you a dime.
Okay.
But nickel is mined up in the earth, and it's sold, and it's very, very expensive. Nickel, because it's so necessary, it's one of the more expensive materials that go into the different grades of stainless steel that you buy.
What is made out of nickel?
The biggest thing right now that is driving the nickel industry is electric batteries. So the more and more you see electric vehicles, or as they call it EVs, the EV market is kind of demanding more and more nickel. So for the regular tubing and stuff that I would sell, it's harder to get because it's being used in different things, and the EV market has been driving a lot of that.
So nickel is, well, I guess stainless steel is a form of nickel?
So yeah, we could talk about what stainless
Yeah,
steel is.
let's get into it.
Yeah. Yep. So metal is made up of a lot of different types of metal that's kind of brought into one, and that makes up a certain chemistry and that's what like the name of the chemistry is. So stainless steel gets its name because it does not rust like normal iron does. You've heard of steel, and you've heard of carbon steel is what I don't work with, but what a lot of my company does. I think my company is about 75% carbon steel. And that's very cheap metal because it's mostly just iron, and iron is very easy to get from the earth. But then you have more expensive metals, and those kind of metals are more rare, and also they have different qualities that you want in your finished product.
Like it doesn't rust.
Like it makes it not rust. Yeah. It's kind of crazy, and I can't tell you exactly how it does it, but there's some sort of layer that happens over the stainless steel to where when water hits it, this layer is like acts as a protective layer. So while stainless steel can rust, and it does, it takes a lot longer of a time to rust.
So what is an example of normal steel?
Normal
like
steel.
Give them an example so they know what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah, normal steel is a lot cheaper, so it would go into a lot of different things. I would say a lot of welders will use steel because it is so cheap and used for so many things. So infrastructure, like under the roads and stuff, that's all going to be carbon steel. And a lot of that you can make very thick tubing, and it can rust. It's not a huge deal as long as it doesn't rust through.
Yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't you? I feel like you would want. I don't know exactly what pipes are doing under the road, but wouldn't you want that sturdy?
The biggest thing is I would say that you would always want stainless steel, but a lot of times it comes down to the cost effectiveness of it. I think cost-wise, stainless steel is so much more expensive than normal steel. When it's traded on the market, you know, the things that go into stainless will probably be around $10 to $12 right now for what we're looking at. Carbon steel is traded for a matter of cents. I think at one point it was at 6 cents or 7 cents. So that's quite the difference between the $10. Yeah. So
stainless steel is better, and then you also do aluminum.
Yeah. So aluminum is kind of its own thing. It's a little part of our company, but it's important nonetheless because we want to offer more products to our customers. So
is that one also traded?
Yes. Yeah, you could go and look at aluminum, and aluminum has a very neat way at how they figure out the pricing. Here in the Midwest, they have what's called the Midwest average, and it's what is being traded every single day, and they take the average of the last month, and they use that price for the next month.
Okay.
So it's kind of like one solid price that you could use for a whole month, and it makes it a little bit more convenient than having to go look at the market every single day and see. But yeah, it still changes often enough to where if it gets more expensive or cheaper, it will adjust at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you work stainless steel and aluminum.
Nice. Real nice.
You work with those two. So you have companies come to you asking for it, and you're finding it for them and then telling them the prices, or what is the process?
Yeah, so our customers, is that like what you're asking?
Yeah.
Our customers could be anyone from a machine shop that is going to make a finished part for some sort of company. Obviously, when you think of finished parts, I think of like certain machines, like John Deere contracts out so many of those parts. So let's start with my product.
Yeah.
I'm in the tubing industry. So that is considered a, you know, semi-finished, but it's still a finished product. Because what happens is they take strip of steel, and then...
Is strip just like a piece? Is that what that means?
Yeah, so it starts as a coil, basically like a giant toilet paper roll.
Okay.
And they'll split the coil. So let's say they only need the strip to be about this wide. They'll split it to that wide, so there's a slitter. And there's certain companies that just slit, but a lot of the mills will also do their own slitting too. And
Are you a mill?
No.
What's a mill?
Then we'll move down to the tubing mills.
Okay.
So what they'll get is the slit coil. And what they're set up to do is they have rollers that as you're running the material through, these rollers actually curve the metal into a tubular
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah.
And then it gets welded automatically as it goes through the process.
Oh, okay.
It's a really neat process, and I got to see it once. Up in Wisconsin, there's a pretty big mill that I work with, and they had me in for a tour, and it's really cool to see. It goes into a little box, and I know the welders that you interviewed talked about it a little bit, but there's gas around the weld.
Go watch that
Yeah,
video.
yeah. Shout out to the welders. I enjoyed that one. But the weld needs certain amounts of gas that go in, and it also provides a certain product. The certain types of gas and the different gases they use is how good the product might be. Is their special blend, So different mills, even though they're selling the same thing, they're a little different.
So you have a warehouse in your building.
Yeah.
Are the warehouse different than the mills?
Yes. So we'll keep going down the line.
I'm just jumping ahead.
So I know, but I like it because you're ready to go on that. So it started out with the coil, and there's only so many large metal companies that do that. Here in the U.S., there's only 3.
Wow.
There's North American Stainless. They're known as NAS. There's Allegheny Technologies, which is based in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the steel capital of the U.S. And the river that actually flows through Pittsburgh is called the Allegheny River, I believe. So there's deep roots from the steel industry in that town.
Okay.
And then there's one other company, Outokumpu.
Where is the other 2 located?
NAS is in Kentucky. And Outokumpu, I'm not sure exactly where they're at. I think they're down south somewhere. But Outokumpu started in Europe, and they ended up bringing a lot of what they have here. So they have a big portion of their operation here.
Cool. So it goes to one of those.
Yep. Yep. So it starts that coil, then goes to the tubing mills. They make the tube out of the, strip. And then they have to sell the tube.
Okay.
Now, from a business perspective, they could sell to the customers direct. They could have, your mom and pop shop come in and saying, hey, can I have a piece of tube? But it is not efficient for them to do that because they're making so much tube in such large quantities. They're constantly running what they're running.
Yeah.
And they make so much material that the way that the industry sells it is now the mills will have a relationship with their distributors.
Which is you?
Yes. So I work for a distributor.
So they're making it before they have orders, and then you just order from them, or they make it when you order it?
They do both. It's hard because in a slow economy, they're able to overproduce and actually start stocking material.
Yeah.
But in a fast economy where everybody, needs and wants more materials, they actually have a lead time and we have to wait for it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice because we will order ahead because we know what our customers need, and then we will bring it into our warehouse and stock it. So we'll have stock when people need it, even though the mill might be out in 10 weeks from now,
Yeah.
But we have orders on the books and that material is already coming in. So bring it in.
Oh my gosh, I had a question.
Yeah. Now what's interesting is what the distributors add a lot of time is not only the fact that they can stock it, bring it in, keep it on the shelves, and kind of sell the ones and twosies like that. My facility and my company does a great job at value-added things. So we actually do have welders, and we have fabricators that will make certain parts, and we have machines. Our Romeoville facility has over 10 lasers. And what the lasers do is, like, if you think of a John Deere part, it might be the bar that goes over like a lawnmower. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is bend it. And the second thing you're going to have to do is cut out the holes in the tube where like the screws will go for your different bars and different things like that.
Yeah.
So these companies will send us prints and we'll be able to tell them what we can and can't do on our lasers. And that's kind of the value added that we bring to the table, and that's just one of the many things that we can do.
Do you have a lot of other companies as competition?
We do. There's a lot of different distributors. I wouldn't say a ton, like you could probably like go through, and the sizes also are a big difference. There's certain areas where they'll only have one branch and they're a smaller branch, but they're very, focused on their area, and they can do it just as well as anybody else can because they're very focused. And then you have medium-sized companies, which I would describe mine as. We have about 8 different branches throughout the Midwest. And then you have massive companies that are all throughout the U.S.
Do all your locations have a warehouse or no?
Yes. Yeah, we don't just have any sales offices. We used to have in Cleveland the sales office, and then our warehouse is really small. But we are actually we are owned by a larger company that does plate and coil. So they sell the huge toilet paper rolls of material and just flat plates.
Do you think that's more beneficial? Like, do you think your clients come to you over another place because you have that warehouse? Well, and you talked about how you have that like add-on stuff.
Yeah, I think so. The really nice part about that is, let's say we have our Cleveland branch, and there's a Cleveland customer. There's a customer in Cleveland, but we have stock in Minnesota. What we can do is, because we do so much of it, and we have shuttle trucks running between our branches, we can tell our customer, give us 4 or 5 days, and we will shuttle Minnesota down to Chicago over to Cleveland. In Cleveland, we have shuttle routes running out, and we can deliver it to your facility.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like a nice network, and I think that's a lot of my company's success in, what we do, is we have a very good network in the Midwest.
So how do you find your clients? Wait, were you finished with the process?
No, I think that's good. That's a good
Okay.
question. As they roll off,
Okay.
kind of what you're wondering.
I want to make sure we don't skip anything. So.
Right. You had a good question that you prepared that I thought about, and it was a lot of what do other people do, or what specifically do you do on your team? Something sort of like that. And it's funny because I do a lot of things, but I rely on other people to do a lot of other things. Yeah, you're finding it? Oh yeah, that was a really good question I asked.
I said, how much of your job needs approval from your manager?
It could be part of it. I think you asked me about the quality aspect of it too, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of businesses are set up differently. You'll have different roles and different jobs, but the basic needs are pretty similar. Some smaller companies might rely on one person to do multiple jobs. I would say at my company, because we're pretty big, and especially me being in the corporate office, so we have a lot of people, everybody has their own jobs. Me being a product specialist, my job is to know the product and to know the different suppliers that will sell it.
Yeah.
What our customers will do is they see the sales side. So we have inside and outside salespeople. Inside salespeople, they work inside the building, and they're getting emails from customers that are asking, can you quote this? And the inside people, yeah, like I was saying, work at their desk. They're getting emails in from our customers. The outside people are going out to visit our customers, building more upon that relationship, making sure that they're happy. If they have a problem, they'll go out and, look at what the problem is, and they will also kind of prospect new customers.
What do you mean by problem? What problem? If they're they're potential customers or your existing customers? What are the problems?
Well, the problems would be with existing customers.
Yeah.
If we gave them tube and they said this isn't even the right tube that we ordered or wanted.
That'd be your fault.
Or yeah.
Then
And
you get
sometimes certain things happen to where it could be anyone's fault.
Oh, I'm sure.
Or everyone's fault sometimes.
I'm sure.
So they kind of go out and help them with all that, and yeah, they're more of, outside the building. They're a little bit of hybrid. They're a little inside the building a lot. Like, I know my outside people really well, but they'll come to me and say, we just visited this customer or potential customer, and this is what they do. Can you help us put together a package for them, or is this something that we would be able to offer them, or is it just not worth it? Is it not in our wheelhouse? So that's the kind of things that they prospect out, and we, go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times there's an outside salesperson and an inside salesperson paired onto an account.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the account, or the account
The
is just
account
like
is
that
the
customer?
customer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get assigned them? Do you have like a specific salesperson assigned to you?
A salesperson is assigned to a handful of accounts, probably a lot, ranging from anywhere from 50 accounts to, over 100. And those could be more active. You could get emails from those customers every single day, but they could be less active where maybe, they don't do as much work, so they only reach out maybe once a month on like their basic needs, or like they only need like one piece every, so often. So that'll happen sometimes too.
Yeah.
What that pair will do, an inside and an outside on the account. They get a request from the account. If it's stainless and aluminum and it's a larger quantity that we don't already have in stock, because if it is in stock, they can handle it themselves.
Okay.
They're like, okay, our stainless team or our purchasing team already brought this in at this price, and we can sell it. If it's a larger quote, if it's going to be thousands of dollars, they might want to say, well, where's the market at right now for this? Did aluminum just go through the roof, so we have to sell this a little higher because our replacement costs are going to be higher?
Yeah.
And replacement costs, would be, what is it going to cost for you to bring in the material that you already have in stock? If you were to order this material today, maybe you ordered it 3 months ago at $1, but now it's $1.50. So because that's the material that we have to bring in, we kind of have to cover ourselves and maybe lift the pricing a little bit. So that's kind of how that goes. They'll come to us for help, and we will help them, because our salespeople deal with so many different materials and so many different products. We're more focused, and we're specialized in knowing the stainless and aluminum markets and the products.
So the salespeople do everything that your company sells?
Yeah, yeah. And our salespeople, that's where the money comes from. There's so many supporting roles, and there's so many jobs that play a huge part, but sales really generates the revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have people in the warehouse, you have quality people that are checking the stuff and making sure that it's being brought into the warehouse right. You have accounting upstairs to make sure that the customers are getting billed and we are paying the bills from the material coming in.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own job, so.
Yeah. So are you talking to the clients, or do you just let the salespeople know it's going to cost this much for this much, and then they communicate that to them?
Very rarely will I communicate with the accounts. The accounts are handled by the sales team. They develop that relationship, they kind of know them. But sometimes if they're like, our customer needs to know more about stainless and like what it could do for them, we might have a little bit more expertise where we will go communicate direct with them over either email or phone, or we'll do a conference call just to talk about what we can offer and what we think might be a good product for them.
So, not to throw you under the bus, but to throw you under the bus, one day we were supposed to go get food, and you canceled on me and our other friend because you went to go meet with clients.
That's right. So,
quote-unquote clients.
Sean, what she's talking about.
So was that clients like the mills?
It was. So you have your clients and your accounts. That's our customers. We sell to them. We have vendors that sell the product to us.
Yes.
And my relationship is a lot more with the vendors. So those same people that I was talking about that I do a lot of business with, they were coming into town, and they let me know last second that whoever they came in to see canceled on them.
That's okay. Me and her still had a good time.
Yeah.
So that's okay. But
The metals industry, and I would say a lot of sales industries, but specifically metals, is so relationship driven. If you have a good relationship with a mill and they're willing to help you out, sometimes even give you better pricing, you might end up getting the business that a different distributor won't be able to because you have that relationship.
Yeah.
And it kind of works the same way with our salespeople and our customers, you know? It is so relationship driven, so you really have to be able to talk to people and kind of convey yourself.
I guess that, I see why that happens, but I guess it also confuses me because if the price of something is the price of something, at least, I guess they could be giving it to you where they don't make like a profit off of it. But like if the price of something is like $3.
Yeah.
And they tell you it's $3, then if you like them or if they like you, then why would that affect the price?
So if you were getting a product in for $3 and selling it for $3, you'd be out of business.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. How are they able to give you a better deal?
You're going to put a markup on everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is market driven. If you are getting the product in for $10, and it's always been $10, but there's a higher demand for it, now you could charge more money for it.
Yeah.
So instead of selling it for 15 like you used to, it's still coming in for 10.
Yeah.
But now you're selling it for 18 or 20.
So if the supplier likes you, then they can make it 16.
The supplier might say, yeah, we'll give it to you for 16. You know, prices are always changing, and the amount of margin that you get on it is, you know, very variable.
Yeah.
And obviously, in order to be a successful business, you have to make more money than your costs are.
Yeah.
And there's so many different costs for a business that you really need to think about. Like the cost of having the warehouse, you got to pay rent. You have to pay for every single one of those warehouse workers out there. You have to pay for the electric every, month. You have to pay for everybody's salary in the office. So a lot of times when your product is coming in for 10 and you're selling it for 18, you're thinking like, wow, that's like a lot of money that you're making, but it's really, the costs. You have to make sure you cover your costs, and you're doing this for a reason, and that's to make profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My job is very similar to yours, I'll say. And since I've been in this job, it's like so crazy. I don't want to get into detail about it, but I've seen how like markups and stuff work, and just like the margin of what profit companies should be making and stuff. And I think it's really interesting.
In some different markets, you're able to make more money because that's just how the market is. Sometimes what will happen is you'll bring in raw materials that cost a total of 90 cents, and you'll be selling your product for $200. And a lot of it is either what you're capable of doing it, or doing to it, with it, or how you're able to market it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the demand. Maybe it's really hard to get and you're a key player in that and you have a way to get it that other people don't.
Yeah.
You get to upsell it. So the markups are very crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one thing. I was most surprised probably about my position was how much my company pays for stuff and then how much we sell it for.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that you brought up your position because I don't know exactly.
Don't say too much.
I don't know exactly what you do.
Yeah.
But for
me neither.
I'm just kidding. Is that what we're sticking with? What did she do?
Just kidding, that's being taken out.
You're the worst. You're keeping this in. You're keeping this part in. So I would say that the main job of mine is sales support. I support my sales team through my relationship with the vendors and knowing the product a little bit better. But I would also say that I have control of my own purchasing, so I'm a little bit more of a purchasing agent. Now what we have in my company is corporate purchasing too. So those are two different jobs, my purchasing and then what the corporate purchasing team does. The corporate purchasing team will look at our usage and be like, wow, we sell this product a lot. We sell 5,000 feet a month of this. So what they're going to do is they're going to go to the mills and be like, we'll take on like 2 months worth of material. So what kind of price can you give me for 10,000 feet? Now most of our salespeople will never land an order for 10,000 feet of that product. But our corporate purchasing, because they're buying for everybody in the whole company, they kind of get the power to be like, we'll give you an order for all of this. What kind of price can you give us? And it's usually a much better price than other people can get. A lot of what we do is work on specific bids, contracts, jobs, to where a company will come to us and say, we have this big job and we do need 2,000 feet. What's the best that you could do for us? And we'll be able to go out to our vendors and purchase that. Because it might be more than what we're bringing in for stock, or we might have to make sure that the stock is being replenished. So I also have I wear a little bit of a purchaser's hat too. You know, that's one way to describe my job too, because that's exactly what I do every single day. I'm writing purchase orders out to the mills, and they're sending us material for different jobs we're quoting.
How many, you call them accounts?
Yeah. Yep.
How many accounts do you have at a time, would you say? And how long do each of them usually last until they're filled?
So accounts, hopefully you keep them forever, unless there's something really bad happens and you're not happy, and they're not happy with you, and they're like, we're never coming back to your company ever again to buy.
Yeah.
Or maybe something really bad like that happens, they go on a break for like 3 or 4 years, they might, you know, have lost those feelings, and they're like, we'll buy from you again. A lot of relationship. But what I work on a lot, and I think like what you're trying to ask with that question is how many quotes am I working on at a time?
Yeah.
So that's a single job that an account will send in. I'm working on probably anywhere between 20 and 40 at a time. Sometimes it gets slower, sometimes it gets heavier. But what will happen is a customer will send to our salesperson, we need 2,000 feet of this. Our salesperson will send it to me saying, we're looking for this. And what I'll do is send it out to 3 or 4 different vendors and be like, I'm looking to buy this, what's your price?
Yeah.
Now after I send out that email, it's going to take them probably a day for all of them to respond back.
Just a day?
It could be a day, it could be 3 days, but there is a certain aspect of it to where you want to be quick, because we can't wait forever to quote our customers, because we have competitors that are quoting our customers too, trying to get that business. And if you're too slow and they already placed the order, you lose that order.
Yeah. Mine, we call it tendering. It's like we ask suppliers for their product, and then they have 28 days. They have like a month to get us back pricing.
Yeah. And is there a lot going into that product? A lot going into that stage?
Yeah, I mean, they need to figure out how to like make it and how much they're going to charge us.
Yeah, because there might be, I'm just imagining that you might have to deal with the marketing. How are we going to market this? What are they going to do to the product? It might be color-based or something like that.
Yeah.
We're a little similar, but if the customer knows what they want, they're like, we want this stainless steel. They already know what they want. It's very easy. Sometimes their customer will say, we're looking for something to build this. We don't know what are our options. That's when you might have to do a little bit more digging with the customer and be like, what kind of material do you want?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting with that. There's a lot of different kinds of stainless steel alloys. That's what the alloy is, a mix of different metals. So stainless steel has different alloys. Probably the most common alloy is called 304. It's 18 and 8. It's I think it's 8% nickel and 18% chromium, and that gives it a very somewhat cost efficient but very good qualities in the metal. There's also a stainless steel called 316. It's kind of like 304, but it's a little bit more corrosive resistant. So if it's going into something that's going to be close to seawater, where that seawater is going to corrode the metal over time, you might want to use 316, or maybe something that's going to be outside, or a marine application, like exhausts on a boat, are usually 316. So when it gets to alloys, there are so many different alloys of stainless steel. And different grades, and when
you just know all of it off the top of your head?
I don't, and that's the part of my business, is there's so much to learn and there's so much to know, and that's why we have the wonderful thing called Google.
That is true.
Sometimes they're like, we want this, you want what? What? And then I have to go, where the heck do I get this from? Because not always do we sell out of stock, and not always have we sold it. Sometimes they ask us for a metal, and now we have to go out to our suppliers and kind of use our network of people, and we might be asking our vendors, listen, I know you don't sell this, but do you know anybody that would?
Yeah.
Or do you know where I would like go find or look for this? And that's kind of like the network base of things where a customer might not be able to find it, but we might just because we know so many people in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of that is tough. Yeah, because it's very intense. Everything has different, properties to it, different properties, and they all have different end uses. So while I'm still learning the end uses, because I don't really see the customers too often, but sometimes it'll be like a petroleum customer that sends it in asking for a very weird alloy that I've never heard of. I know that that alloy probably has something specific in that segment that, they need it to be corrosion resistant against gasoline or fuel or whatever they're doing. Or they might be operating at high temperatures and the material needs to be able to react to that. So
that stuff is interesting though.
Yeah, it's so much. So if you talk to somebody that works at a fabricating shop and stuff, they'll know a lot more of that off the top of their head, or even better, they'll only know specifically everything about the alloy they use because the industry dictates that this is the best alloy to be bent into this, or to be corrosion resistant against that, or there's certain grades that are just for welding. They weld better.
Yeah.
So different things like that.
Okay. So you said that you'll send it out to your people, and it takes about 1 day. You try to get it back with 1 day. So then what happens after that?
After we get a quote out?
Yeah.
It's up to our sales team to follow up on that. If it's a promising, they think we have a good chance of winning it, and we haven't received an order in a few days, they might reach back out to the customer and say, do you have any feedback for us? Was our price too high? Is the lead time too long? We can't get it to you quick enough? What happened? If we get feedback, sometimes we can go back to the mills and say, hey, you said you could have this to us in 6 weeks, but they need it in 2. Is there anything you can do? Sometimes they'll be able to expedite the order. Or sometimes, knowing that extra knowledge, we could go back out and say, do any of these vendors have it in 2 weeks? And even though it might be more expensive and we don't usually buy it from them, maybe it'll work better for this specific bid.
Yeah.
So certain things like that, we just hope we get an order.
Yeah.
So once we get an order, our sales team will create a sales order, and that is on the sales side of things. And then we will create a purchase order that links up to that sales order, and that will go to the vendor and say, hey, we won this and we need this material.
And then it's just whatever the lead time is, that's how long it will take to ship?
Yeah, you put it all in the PO. It'll include when you need it by, and obviously when the mill quoted you 10 weeks. We've had certain times in our market, in our industry, where they've quoted 10 weeks, but then something happens and you don't get it until 20 weeks. So it's very difficult to kind of, work with that customer. That customer might have needed that material for a job.
Yeah.
And we do the best to try to work things out, but sometimes it's out of your control.
Yeah.
That ended up happening during the COVID recovery. There were certain mills that weren't even producing material anymore, and what happened was the supply dropped like crazy and the demand was still going, especially as COVID kind of dulled off and it started to pick back up again. The mill lead times went from about 3 weeks when I was in the industry, 3 or 4 weeks was for everything. Then it went to 10, 15, 20, it got all the way up to 30 weeks. You could not find the material. So everything we had in stock, the price rose big time.
Yeah.
And we couldn't sell as much because we couldn't get our hands on the material to sell it.
How long did that last?
That probably lasted a good 6 months or so. Finally, when things got alleviated and they were at 30, we were hoping they'd stop going up, and they were like creeping up, but then they were starting to creep down, and we've just been working down since then. So
it's still not completely back to 3?
No, it's not. I'd say on average it's different for different product groups, but I'd say about 10 weeks might be the average.
You think it will ever go down to 3?
I don't know, because I haven't been in the industry for too long, but with COVID, a lot of people that have been in the industry have said we have never ever seen anything like this, and we've never imagined anything like this would happen.
Yeah.
It's just...
They mean a pandemic?
Yeah. And seeing this material being so volatile.
Yeah.
Because metals typically is a very boring industry where price just kind of flatlined. It would change by pennies.
Mm-hmm.
1 month it would go up a penny, go down a penny. Now we're dealing with whole dollars that are shooting up, spiking,
mm-hmm.
dropping down, you know, so we're constantly playing the game, and it makes my job a lot more interesting. I actually get to follow it, and it's more important because of that.
Which you like.
Yep. More interesting.
Do all your products, it's not made, but are assembled, or like the factories, are they all in the United States?
Like our customers?
No.
The mills.
The mills.
The mills.
Yeah, where are they located?
Most of them are in the U.S. that we buy from. We have relationships with them,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have relationships with import sources. Import meaning that we get it from a different country. A very popular area to get it from is China.
Mm-hmm.
China sells the U.S. a lot of tubing,
Mm-hmm.
and China is very, very, very cheap. But along with that sometimes comes a lack in quality. So a lot of our customers that use the stainless steel more intensely might have pressure applications where they're running through something and it's pressurized.
Mm-hmm.
And what will happen is, if it's cheaper material, the weld seam will burst. Where the material gets rolled and welded,
Mm-hmm.
it'll burst and leak. And you
Mhm.
can't have that in a lot of applications. So a lot of applications will call for just domestic only. What's interesting in the tubing world is a lot of places will call Canadian and Mexican material domestic. It's close enough to a similar quality
Mm-hmm.
to a U.S. made tube.
Domestic shouldn't be, a product being categorized as domestic. Yikes.
Wow.
A product being categorized as
a
domestic.
Should
Shouldn't. Where are you
coming from the USA.
No, shouldn't be called domestic based off of the quality. It isn't that where it's from.
Yeah.
That's why it's domestic.
Yeah, I mean, they say, can we have domestic? We say, can you take Mexican material? They're like, yeah, that's close enough.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they're just dumb.
Well, they know what they want, and we help them better understand what they want.
Are you ever hands-on with the product?
A little bit, not a whole lot. That's a lot of what our warehouse people are for.
Mm-hmm.
We have certain ways of testing the material. If our customer orders something, we have a certain quality inspection and check that we do, and when we bring it in,
Mm-hmm.
our warehouse people will use this tool that measures exactly how thick the wall is of the tubing
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that it's actually what we ordered. They'll also look at the stenciling on the tube that says what it is, and if it matches up the order,
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes the mill accidentally sends the wrong material, we
Mhm.
catch it in the warehouse. Sometimes the warehouse doesn't catch it, so
Mhm.
it's kind of like one of those things where maybe we ship it off to the customer
Ew,
said.
yeah. So that was what you were saying earlier. It wouldn't be your fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort, so maybe it's somebody's fault, maybe it's everybody's fault, and maybe
Mhm.
it's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes, but what we do as a team is we try to, problem solve. If we see something is going wrong, often we have to figure it out as a team. What can we do better?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of that goes into it. The warehouse is obviously a lot more hands-on with it than I am,
Yeah.
but I'll go out there occasionally. I had a scenario where we were testing the material was correct,
Mhm.
but the stenciling was wrong. It said that it was a different wall thickness, but when we tested it, it was like right,
Mhm.
but the stenciling was off. So one of our vendors actually sent out a person to re-stencil the material. It was only
Mhm.
like 10 pieces. So they came out and I walked them out and showed them where it is and helped them do that. So that was like one of the situations where I'd be out in the warehouse.
Would you like to be more hands-on, or are you like satisfied with the amount of times you're in there?
I like my position, I would say it would get a little boring if I was never out there. But the amount that I'm in there is a pretty good amount.
How often would you say you're speaking with other people? Like people, do you have like a team?
I do have a team. My team of specialists, there's 4 of us. And we help the whole company. So some of us help different branches more often because we're a corporate team. We'll have sales teams not only here in Chicago, but also in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and they come to us. My team, we work together often. Some of us are more knowledgeable on certain things than others, just past experiences, different things that we've been through. That one time that you see a quote come through for a weird alloy and you're like, what the heck is this? And you go through that, maybe somebody else on the team now is seeing that for the first time and you're like, oh, I've actually done this. So we could all kind of help each other out and use our different expertises. But a lot of the time it is independent work. A lot of the time the salespeople is reaching out to one of us or all of us, and one of us is taking care of that quote.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both. There's certain aspects of it that we have to work as a team for the whole company, such as tracking the material. When nickel spikes, we need to know, and when nickel drops, we need to know, and our sales team needs to know. But we're the ones that track that and give them the heads up.
So do you have like team meetings, like weekly?
We used to. Now we do it a little bit more over email. We kind of send, big email, and we have different, sort of things that we do set up to kind of just take care of that already.
Yeah.
One member of the team sends out a nickel and aluminum tracker every week.
What's your favorite part of your job?
The favorite part of my job? By far, is the relationship building. The fact that I get to develop so many relationships with different people, I really enjoy that aspect of it. My sales team, my vendors, I like talking to people, and that's been a big part of my job, and I'm happy about that.
What's your least favorite part?
To be honest with you, my least favorite part is working inside all day. It is an 8 to 5 job. Sometimes I call it the hard season, like between November and March. But during those months, I will just not see the sun at all. So I get to work, it's still dark out, I leave work and it's dark out. When it gets bright at 8:30 and it gets dark at 4:30, that's when...
You have an office?
It's kind of sad, yeah.
You have a window?
No, we do not.
Least favorite part is being inside.
By far. It is depressing at times, but I don't know. I wish I was outside more, to be honest, but it is what it is.
You need to switch jobs to an item that gets made outside. And then,
more hands-on, just become a welder.
yeah, I mean, we have a video about it.
I know, it inspired me. That's what it was. Learned so much.
That's the point of these, so I'm glad.
Listening to them talking about their weldings and stuff comes into play a lot of what I do. The material I need to know if it's TIG welded or if it's an electric weld. Certain customers will ask about that. They'll be like, the electric weld doesn't work well for us. We need it TIG welded.
Yeah.
So they knew more about those welds that I don't really know.
Well, now, just send them that interview.
Yeah.
And then win-win for everyone.
Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, you need to know about TIG welding? Let me send you this podcast.
Watch this 45-minute podcast.
Yeah.
What would you say is an uncommon fact? But I feel like you kind of already touched on it, but I'll still let you answer.
An uncommon fact.
Yeah, about your position or about your industry.
That's a tough one. I can't really think of anything right off the top of my head now.
Everyone says this is the hardest question.
It probably, the question you just asked?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's tough because there's a lot of things like that could be.
I just feel like it's things that people don't know, which is like a lot.
Yeah. I kind of touched on the alloys already. The different materials are made out of different alloys, different metals that go into it.
Yeah.
One of the different things about it is the spec that it's made to. Each different type of tubing might be produced differently and tested differently. The mill has to test in order to meet the spec tolerance.
Yeah.
There's two different organizations that will determine the specs. It's ASTM and ASME. And what will happen is ASTM, I wish I knew what it stood for. I think it's like American Standards. So a lot of manufacturing industries use ASTM, including, you know, the tubing industry. And then ASME kind of goes off of the ASTM standards that are set, but it's more pressure-based testings. So when we order a tube from a mill and they're making 5,000 feet of this material and this is going online, they have to do a certain amount of quality inspections in order to meet that spec. So what they're going to do is pull off part of the tubing and test it as they're going. They're going to make sure the wall thickness tolerance is correct. The OD or outer diameter test is, you know, within tolerance. ASTM and ASME looks at the way that they're producing this, and they say, well, you should be able to produce this within this sort of tolerance. So it's kind of setting a standard for everybody that makes that material to that spec. So it's kind of interesting, the different specs you get, the different testings that go into it. I learned a lot more about the testing and the metallurgy of the metal recently because I attended a seminar where I learned a lot about... Shut up.
I stopped myself.
Okay, you really didn't.
I stopped myself.
You really didn't.
Did you voluntarily go to this? Look, you did not.
Yeah, the rest of
say
my
that.
team did not because they were not interested, but I was interested in learning. So, yeah.
Okay.
The different types of tests they do are obviously to test different types of things, but to test the hardness of the material, like how likely it is to dent, they actually put it in this machine where they have a ball hammer and it will do a light tap and they'll measure how, you know, large the dent is, and then they'll do a hard tap and it'll measure how, you know, big the dent is, and from that they can determine the hardness of the material.
That's kind of interesting.
Every single tube is produced in a heat, and that heat is all the same batch of material that came in on the strip. So that heat will all have the same chemical composition, and another heat might have a different chemical composition because it was made at a different time. But ASTM determines that, you know, nickel has to be within 6 to 8%, so it could be anywhere in there, you know, so one batch or heat of a material might be different than another one. And each heat comes with an MTR, a materials test report. So each tube has an MTR that we could reference, and it will go through the different testings that that batch has gone through. So that includes the hardness test that I was just talking about, eddy current test, kind of to make sure. I'm not exactly sure what that one does, but I think it determines like the structure of the material. If there's any like unsoundness, maybe any gaps in the material, any bubbles or anything like that, it might be able to find that. Those sort of things are, you know, what the tube goes through that you don't really think about. You think they just make the tube. No, they have to test it as to a certain quality, and that's all throughout the world. I mean, if you're getting that Chinese material, it still has to meet the ASTM specs, but it might meet it a little less than what the domestic, you know, the domestic might be a little higher on that. So, interesting stuff there.
One question I forgot to ask you earlier was what requirements you had to have for your job.
Mostly it's a bachelor's degree. A lot of it determines on how well you can communicate.
That can't be true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Really?
Because you got the job?
I communicate great. Great. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Email. How well you could write emails. You know how good your grammar and spelling is. Do you have anything to say on that? Do you have anything to say?
I feel like you're fine in
Okay.
emails and stuff. I haven't emailed you very much, but just getting a hold of you is nearly impossible.
Well, it's a little different, so. Okay.
Okay, so good communication skills and a bachelor's degree.
Yep. It also helped that I did a little economics. I could kind of sell myself on that.
Mm-hmm.
And the analyzing part of my job kind of requires me to use Excel pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that that is a requirement, but also you could learn on the job pretty well, and you'll learn different tricks as you go through working. So I'm pretty proficient in Excel.
Is that you bragging?
I'm pretty good at Excel.
What advice would you give to someone looking to be a product specialist?
Oh, that is a good question. I would say go in with an open mind and try to learn as much as you can about that industry.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that I'd be in the metals industry, but the metals industry was kind of the job that was open. And when I checked it out, I was like, okay, I'll, do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really learned to really like the industry that I'm in.
Yeah.
But a product specialist could be absolutely anything. So no matter what the product is. So maybe try to learn a little bit more about your product. But you'll learn plenty when you're in the job. Just know that this might be something that you might want to stick with.
You want to stick with it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the saying in the metals industry is once you're in, and you can't leave. Mm-hmm. So, and it's just...
Like a cult?
Yeah, like a cult.
Do you have anything else you want to say before we switch into some trivia?
Some trivia?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was trivia.
That's how I know you didn't watch my videos.
Oh,
all my videos have trivia.
Okay.
So you're fake. You said you watched it.
All the way at the end? Great.
Yep, all the way
Great.
at the end.
Great. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I like what I do for the most part. There's ups and downs, but there's plenty to learn, and I embrace it, so it's fun.
Fun. So I have product development vocabulary words pulled up. Is that you? Like, would you know that?
Product development?
Yeah.
We're not developing a product.
So you won't know them?
I can try.
I also have an aluminum trivia quiz pulled up.
That's probably better. I could probably nail that.
Okay.
I like this.
It is 5 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Which isotope of aluminum is stable? And then it says, not radioactive. AI-26, AI-13, AI-28, or AI-27?
Oh, 28.
How positive are you?
Not. I just guessed.
Okay, let's see.
I don't know much about isotopes.
You're wrong.
That was close.
AI-27.
That was my second guess.
It says AI-26 has half-life of 730,000 years, and AI-28 is 2.3 minutes.
Wow.
I don't know what that means,
Wow.
but yeah.
It has to do with radioactive decay. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. What year was aluminum discovered? You want the options? Or do you know it off the top of your head?
I do want the options because it's been around for a little while.
1888, 1770, 1825, or 1616?
I'm going to go with 1825.
No.
I was right.
No, it's 18... Oh, wait, yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, thank you for having me. I enjoyed talking about this, and I
Yes,
enjoy
thank you for coming. It was
learning.
very, very interesting.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Young or Dumb. I hope you enjoyed the subject and learned something new. Stick around and listen to another episode after you subscribe. And remember, be happy and be chill.